I'm Jessica Santa. He's Spencer Hall. He's Alanis King. Alanis, Spencer, you guys just got back from a weekend of fun in Austin. I'm just going to toss it to you guys. How was the weekend? Let us know. How was the USGP?
Spencer, you go. How was your USGP?
Hectic. I feel like it has gained momentum as an event based on my attendance there. And I just say that maybe the word that this is the best chance for an American to really see the race at a track that's built for this with the best vantage points got out. Maybe everybody knows that now. It's absolutely no secret. It was hectic, busy, and then there were two races that were both worth their own billing. So yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good weekend. I was so glad that the attendance has stayed very high after that post-COVID, post-Drive to Survive boom. It's still packed all the time. It's
Mhm.
ridiculous. And it was just great to see, And I did worry when Vegas and Miami came along that they would steal the attention from Circuit of the Americas because they're
Mhm.
glitzier, and even though they happen in parking lots and stuff, they're fancier. And so I thought they might take people away from this race, but it's wild to see how many people show up.
Alanis, can we start with the driver's parade? You tweeted a picture of the vehicles that the drivers were in. Can you explain to us, was this a new thing this year? Like what
Yeah.
was this?
Yeah, so this was a new thing. I actually saw a tweet from Circuit of the Americas that said, "Hey, we're looking for cool trucks for driver introductions." And me, I'm thinking like classic trucks with like redone paint and everything super pretty and nice. And I was like, "Can I bring my Miatas? I can take the top off, and the driver can stand in the passenger seat, right?" And then I get there and I'm looking at the screen during driver introductions. And instead of the like classic, beautiful trucks I was thinking about, they just brought a bunch of bro dozers out.
Mhm.
And so they're all in like lifted Dodge Rams and like F
So good.
1750s because they're so big. And they've got those rainbow changing color lights, the headlights that I've only ever seen in my high school parking lot. And
Mhm.
freaking like Max Verstappen's in the back of one. And I just cannot imagine these F1 drivers walking up to these vehicles and going, are we getting in though? It's like
I mean, they're so little. They probably needed like
The
help getting
stool.
up.
a
These
booster
cars
seat.
are so big.
Just imagine Lewis Hamilton getting in the back of a protoser with color changing lights, and like you can't not laugh. It's so funny.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Everything's
Everything.
goofier in Texas. I was like, you've got to be kidding
They
me.
should have let him race one lap, just one lap in Brodozer.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking, Spencer. You might have also felt this way, but they had the Porsche Cup cars out there, and
Hmm.
I'm watching them wreck each other. And I'm like, that should be the sprint race. Like,
Yeah.
Max and Lando should be able to go out there and just slam into each other in a Porsche and then just do the race the next day. But the teams won't let them. They'd be like, oh, our little boys are going to get hurt. We can't let them do that. That should be the sprint race, though.
I think 20 cars, all random, thrown out there. Everybody gets to run and sprint like it's old school Le Mans. You get to run and sprint and pick your car. The keys are in it and it's
You
running.
get to pick.
Yeah, and you get to pick. And none of them cost
Ooh.
more than $12,000.
Or the bro dozers. We could
Or
let
just
them
20 Brodozers, right?
Just monster
20.
truck rally. Let's just make it even bigger. All right. Well, let's cut to the chase here because
Hmm.
yes, everything is bigger in Texas, including the amount of scandal that the stewards have bestowed upon this sport
Yep.
over the past I don't even know how long. I mean, there's been scandal in F1 as long as there's been F1, but there's specifically been scandal regarding Max Verstappen and his driving style and his defending moves and his overtaking techniques. And I'm left a little bit speechless at what happened at the end of this race this weekend. So we're going to get into all of that, but before we get into like the real nitty gritty of what the stewards decided to make a 5-second penalty on Lando Norris. Do either of you disagree that this was a weird decision from the stewards? And if so, can you make your case for it?
I'll let Spencer go first.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. I get the
Yeah.
make it. I don't think we have clear rules on that, so I'm going to boil it down to this. If you watch this, the reaction that I had was Max ran him off the road.
Okay.
That's it. And I still believe he ran him off the road. You can get into a lot of discussions about where the apex is and should you be ahead at the apex, right? And that's fine. I understand the rules need to be finely delineated here. And F1 will read the rules the way they want to. They will. They will make them make as much sense as possible. Rules and reality do not always mesh cleanly. And that's something I think we're struggling with here when you watch this, is that you watch this and you go, I think it's pretty apparent that Max is just running him off the road and daring him to crash him, because that's racing. That's racing at any circuit, at any level. That is a racing move. And that's fine. That's fine. I have no problem with Max doing it. None. All right. I have at least enough NASCAR in my blood to like almost get excited by the prospect, right? Was it a thing where maybe on a larger sense, Lando should have just given that spot back instantly because he had the pace to pass him anyway? Yeah. I think he probably should have given up the spot a little sooner, because at that point we're worrying about whether the rule was, we're worrying about whether it was right or wrong and not trying to win. We're like, don't go, if the officials have already failed you once, why go back a second time? Don't do that. Because clearly you're not going to get what they want, because I think the FIA always feels like they have a legitimacy crisis whenever they get a ruling crisis like this, right? Whenever we get to a crux like this, they feel like they have some sort of, okay, we have to validate our phony baloney jobs. We have to validate our suites and our exclusive rights and everything else we have in exchange for being the rubber stamp that, you know, the investors put on this sport to make it look as legitimate as it possibly can, so that we can get the best sponsors and make the most money and have the best events. Yes. Okay. FIA feels that crisis every time they do this. I think they felt that since a certain race between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, by the way, and are still reeling from that. Like, if you want to go far, far back, how far back are we going to go? Go back that far, because I think it's been a crisis of legitimacy in terms of officiating in this sport, going at least back that far. That's all my long way of saying they let Max run him off the road, and Lando's going to have to crash him. That's it. Because we've seen this before. And what was the solution? The solution, per Lewis Hamilton, was ultimately to crash. That's it. Max has done this before, and he has put this bet on the table. And if you cash it, both of them crash. Is that going to do much for Lando Norris's title hopes? No, it's not. But it is, to me, the move that Max is daring them to make at this point.
So I find it really interesting, because I do think that there's a transparency concern here, where they're making these calls, but people don't really understand why they're making these calls. And I would have to go back and watch the exact move again, because I watched it like while walking from one place to another at the racetrack. But I do think probably what came into play is F1's like overlap understanding and overlap rule. And it's that in F1, unless you are like side by side, the car in front has that corner. And I believe that goes through the entire corner. So like, if you have a car coming up or you're just slightly overlapped, that doesn't count as having the corner. Like, you have to give the car in front the racing line. And I think there's a way to break this down and go, based on the overlap and based on this and based on this, this is why we made this move, and we counted it as running off the road or not running off the road. You know, like, this is who we believe is at fault and this is why. And I think if you had those full explanations, it would probably make more sense. But it's also such a silly thing when you think about the overlap rules in F1, and like, what counts as being overlapped is just not the same as most racing series. Like, I was talking to Jensen Button about it 2 months ago, and Jensen said it was so freeing, but also kind of scary to come to NASCAR, because in F1, if you have like even a nose of overlap, that's not your corner. In NASCAR, if you have maybe 1 inch of overlap, that's your corner, buddy. Go for it. You can wreck the other car. And there's a freedom to that, because it actually lets you race. You don't have to just keep backing out of these corners because you're not close enough, you know? And so I think there are probably so many factors that go into determining this in a frame by frame breakdown of whether it's running off the road or not. And if they just shared, hey, based on this frame by frame breakdown, this is what we believed happened, then maybe people would have a clearer understanding of it, because it's not as simple as like doing the frame by frame breakdown of out of bounds in a football game, right? Like you have to actually show this is what we believe to be overlap. This is what we believe to be this. And if you don't do that, then there's so much room for people to disagree with you and people to not understand whether you're right or wrong. Jessica, what do you think?
Man, I'm so confused about all of this. So I don't understand. Like, what they gave the penalty to Norris for was overtaking from an out of bounds position, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't take into effect the fact that Max was the one that pushed him out of bounds. And if Norris had actually not been pushed out of bounds, there would have been a collision there again. And I agree. Like in hindsight, Spencer, McLaren probably should have known that Norris was going to get a penalty because we all saw it coming. But
Mhm.
at the moment, like it sort of seemed like, yeah, maybe Max should be getting a penalty too for pushing him off track. But yeah, I mean, I think McLaren made the wrong choice there and not trying to just give him the spot back and then do an overtake, and then hopefully he would have gotten it. There were only a couple laps left at that point. And maybe it would all be water under the bridge. But where I'm left with this is from Lawrence Edmondson and ESPN. This is kind of long, but I'm gonna read it because I think the technical aspects of it are important. Uh, he said in the FIA statement, or the steward's statement on the incident, the stewards made reference to a section of the guidelines that says a driver overtaking on the outside loses the right to a corner if they are not ahead of their rival at the apex. Norris was overtaking Verstappen on the outside, but was not level with Verstappen at the apex, the steward's statement said. Therefore, under the driving standards guidelines, Norris had lost the right to the corner. Accordingly, as Norris left the track and returned in front of Verstappen, it is deemed to be a case of leaving the track and gaining a lasting advantage. A 5-second penalty is imposed instead of the 10-second penalty recommended in the guidelines because, having committed to the overtaking move on the outside, Norris had little alternative other than to leave the track because of the proximity of Verstappen, which had also left the track. And then this is the last paragraph. The ruling raises questions over the logic of making the apex the judging point for everything that happens in the corner thereafter. It also appears to be at odds with a separate section of the driving standards guidelines that say the car being overtaken, in this case Verstappen, must be capable of making the corner while remaining within the limits of the track. So Verstappen was not able to complete this move while staying on track. They both went off track, and yet Lando Norris gets a 5-second penalty for going off track despite having no choice because of Verstappen's positioning. Verstappen also went off track. Like, this was not a move that he could make while staying on track, and yet gets no penalty for it and is actually rewarded his spot back via the 5-second penalty. So that's where I'm left confused. The part about being capable of making the corner while remaining within the limits of the track was not followed and just sort of floats by the wayside after the steward statement comes out. So I'm super confused about how we ended up here. It's just another Formula One thing that I'm like, I don't get it. I know that I'm biased. I'm rooting for a close championship, and I want Lando to get the points. But how is this happening? How does this work?
Or
Yeah.
why didn't we call anything on the what didn't we call anything on the first lap on start?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
there were
true.
issues at that turn too, and
Yeah.
could have been called either way because they are very tight going into that corner initially. Something that, of course, this dynamic all leads to Ferrari deciding, hey, you two are fighting over in the corner. I can walk out on my tab, and the bouncer will
Mhm.
never know. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what Ferrari did. Ferrari got away with it, and got away with it fairly because not only were the two distracted, Lando and Max, by fighting each other, they were outclassed by Ferrari on this day, right? Lando also squandering a pole position here, which we can come back to that. Like there's two things here, okay?
There's like
Before
7
we
things here, by the
before we
way.
wrap up like what
There's
I
like
think could be an
15
hour
things
long
here.
conversation on whether
Yes.
one guy was here or one guy was there. And it's this. Lando squandered a pole, right? Which that happens at Coda. I think 4 out of the last 5 winners started second, or 4 out of the 5 people who were in second ended up leading the lead lap after that, because starting second at Coda is a great position. Additionally, there is this that Lando did have additional time to catch up and absolutely did not. So we're coming down to, okay, we want Lando to get the points, but we want an exciting title race. But Lando has to be better down the stretch. And loath as I am to say this, this feels like where Red Bull's expertise is really going to continue to add up because, they're colder. They've been through here before. They are more experienced at every level. It's weird to refer to Max Verstappen at his age as a grizzled veteran, but that is his role here because on the other side is Lando Norris, who's been super mature, but at the same time, it's different, buddy. It's different over these last 6 races.
Yeah, you're so right. And I didn't watch the broadcast. So maybe they broke all of this down in the broadcast and it wasn't confusing at all. But I think real time explanations for penalties can be very difficult when they're this layered. And it's kind of like a viral video. If a viral video is wrong, everyone reacts to that first video and then they'll put out an apology video. And so few people will see that secondary thing, And so because there probably wasn't that immediate, like, step-by-step breakdown of exactly what happened, it just leaves a lot more room for people to make up their own assumptions. And a lot of people probably just can't fathom that F1's overtaking rules are so silly and
It's so
ridiculous.
confusing.
But again, maybe on the broadcast, there was a detailed breakdown of exactly what happened. I don't know. I was just walking around and hanging out in wherever I was. I was trying to get some free golf balls, is what I was doing on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the thing from here is like this Max Lando title fight. We've seen them make contact. We've seen them do some like legit good racing, and it just sucks that like Lando was trying his hardest to overtake Max for the few laps before this incident happened, and it was like legitimately very fun and very exciting. And if this incident hadn't happened, he probably does eventually catch up to him on his newer tires because Max was burning through those tires trying to defend Lando for the last few laps of this race. But it just is another one of those examples of like it goes slightly wrong and everyone's pissed off by the outcome. Verstappen extends his championship lead by 6 points. And like, where do we go from here? Like, if this situation happens again, how is Lando supposed to drive differently? Can you just not overtake from the outside at all anymore? Because what is stopping Max from just doing this maneuver every single time he's being overtaken from the outside for the rest of the season?
This is a test of individual goals versus team goals because as a strategy, Max has no reason to give up a corner at any point for the rest of the run. None. Because is Lando going to pass him on one of these corners? No, he'll be forced out and then he'll have to give. He can do that for the rest of the year. He could do that for the rest of the year if he tries to overtake on the outside. So unless we're talking about one of these DRS runs or unless we're talking about an obvious huge passing zone, Max has no incentive not only to not let him have a corner, but not to let him pass because he could, in theory, team goals straight to hell at this point, crash him. He could just crash him the rest of the route and he's got the title wound up. Is he going to do that? No, that's insane. It's patently insane.
That's a NASCAR move.
It is a NASCAR move. I'll crash you every single time, even if it crashes me, because I'm still ahead and I will still be ahead in points. So he could do that and he'll still be ahead of Norris. Now, is he going to do that? No, that'd be madness. Will he do it once or twice? Yeah. Like he has no reason to give. And that's not only written into the rules, I think it ignores the rules. This whole discussion about the rules ignores the competitor we're talking about here. That Max will go that far and he will be that extreme, right? Which I say with a note of admiration in my voice that he's that committed to winning that I'm like, it's a possibility.
I mean, I don't fault him for like pushing the rules to their limit at all. Like this is, if he's going to get away with it, like this is well within his right to do what he can to win a championship. So yeah, I mean, he should keep doing it then. I think the question, and not to sound like conspiratorial, I know I do sound conspiratorial.
In
F1?
F1?
This is the other way around. Do they penalize Verstappen? And I think a lot of people watching F1 the last 3 years would say, I don't think so. Like, there's been examples of it, and the punishment is always befitting of a crime done by someone else.
So I feel like this is not a driver's issue. I feel like it's a rules issue, and it's something that F1 needs to fix. And F1 has a lot of rules about what permanent circuits can look like, about having runoff area and all kinds of stuff like this. And I don't know the little technicalities other than like that's why you see the big stars and stripes runoff areas at Circuit of the Americas, because F1 mandates having tons of runoff for these cars. But is the solution not to just put grass or gravel everywhere? Like, do not make it to where they can go outside the lines. That's a thing at plenty of racetracks. You do not have that extra shoulder. You don't have that extra room. And if you do in a series like NASCAR, whatever is asphalt, usually whatever is racing, well, not racing surface, but whatever is surface that you can drive on, generally you can drive on it unless it's really extreme. So is the answer not to lower the amount of surface you can drive on in these runoff areas? Just put gravel or put grass so that they can't go out there, and then you will force them to race between the lines, because all you're doing is bringing criticism onto yourself as the governing body and the regulators. You're only bringing criticism onto yourself by allowing drivers to push your rules. And if you just make it to where they cannot push your rules, then it's clear as day. You go outside the lines, you're in the grass or you're in the gravel, you're done. Race within the lines.
No, I was just to say this had me looking ahead to Vegas because
Well, yeah, let's say there's a wall there. Do you think Verstappen gets penalized?
There's a wall. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It is, and this is all our way of saying we're discussing manners when I don't think that's a consideration for either of these guys at all. Right? I really don't. They might have to go to the stewards. This comes down to a matter of you need to be better if you're Lando, and you're going to have to find a way to do that. This is the for racing. This is the football equivalent of don't tell me you're blocked. Right? Get off your block. Right? Who's blocking me? No, get off your block. You have to figure out a way. This is a step in your maturation. Even if you're not going to win, right? Even if you can't catch him, you need to figure out how to do this, because down the road is going to be an issue for you, right? If you have a driver like this. Also, one other thing, Max has no help. None. Like what you're like, man, why is he this like belligerent? And why is he this aggressive? Because he wants to win, and he has no help to do it, because Checo's back there. He does not even have the support that he has had in the past, with Checo doing brilliant defensive driving for him. That is not an option. Meanwhile, Oscar Piastri is right there. It is right there. So like, I want to state some like sympathy for Max's stance here, because it really is him against the world in terms of on track strategy.
Let's talk about. Oh, go ahead, Alanis.
I was going to say, I also think we see two versions of Max Verstappen in F1. We see Max Verstappen when his car is so good that he's 20 seconds ahead of the field no matter what, and he's bored, and he's like, I'm going to push my own laps and get a track penalty. You know, like I'm going to get track limits by myself 20 seconds ahead of the field because I'm bored and I'm trying to set a faster lap. And then you have Max Verstappen when a couple other teams can challenge Red Bull. And then you get back to that Max Verstappen we're used to seeing, which is this aggressive, push the rules, like intimidate everyone else kind of Max Verstappen. And I think it's fun to watch, but it also puts us in an era of like being stressed out about how Max is kind of bullying everybody and everyone just takes it. And, you know, is it their fault that they take it? Probably. Bully him back. That's what you're doing, you know? Like, these are the rules, work within them.
Well, Spencer, you mentioned some teammates that are not on the same page, but we have gone too long without mentioning two that were neck and neck in this race, finishing 1-2, the Ferrari boys, Charles and Carlos. Charles won the U.S. Grand Prix, but he also won our hearts with his attempt at a Texas accent. So if we could please roll the tape.
Lights out, and here we go.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. I'm not very good with imitating.
Wait, can we hear that again?
George was pretty on point. He had a walker.
Run it one more time. It really has to be heard to be believed several times.
I'm all right.
Lights out, and here we go.
Yeah, that's gonna be a tough.
Lights out, and here we go.
Yeah,
you know what?
That's gonna be a tough one.
He's closer than any of them. He is.
Let's hear
That's
back.
not true. That's not true. Let's watch the whole video.
Let's watch the whole video. I can't. This is horrible. This is how I'm
Didn't do a bad
perceived.
job. George was pretty on point. He had a Walker, the Texas Ranger kind
It's
of
like
approach.
lights on and away we go.
That was pretty good, man.
All right. Lights out and away we go.
Hey, man.
Yo.
No, you just sounded like yourself.
Just sounded like he's from Bromley. Yeah.
He just sounded like himself. Oh my God. Is this how my people are perceived?
Yeah.
I
This is
don't know
actually
what-
probably the most positive version of how Texans are perceived abroad.
Yeah,
I
Is
mean,
this-
remember, in Scandinavia, I believe in Norway, it is a term for, or in Sweden, it's a term for extra. So that if something's really insane, it's considered to be Texas. So this is
I didn't know that.
mild.
Is this
Yeah.
what I sound like?
Not you, because nobody sounds like Charles Leclerc, who
He was like,
doing like a,
out the way we go. I was
doing
like,
like a cartoon character.
like
voice.
what? Yeah, what was that, Charles?
Hey, Charles, consider what your Monegasque accent would be, and then consider what his Texas is, and it's probably about the same.
Oh my God. I'm horrified actually. Wow. Well, he won the race. I don't think he won the accent competition, but he won the race.
I think George Russell's British accent was closer to the Texas accent than what Charles Leclerc was doing.
George just did the George. Like there was
Mhm.
one point at the race in the race where I think George got a penalty and they told him and he was like, "What?"
That was so funny. That was the best. Oh, if Harry or Doug can find that radio call and put that in right here and just replay it 10 times.
So, George, we got a 5-second penalty for forcing Valtteri off the track. What?
The stuff
Mhm.
George says, I don't know if he's like trying to be funny or if that's just how he
Nope.
talks.
He's he's the funniest driver, and he has no idea why.
He's so funny.
Like, why would you
just-
just respond, "What?"
Just so loud. Okay, but back to Ferrari. Ferrari, best car on the track on Sunday by far. And now they are closing in on Red Bull for second place in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren still leads the race by 40. But were either of you surprised by this Ferrari resurgence this weekend? Because I'm not going to lie, I kind of was.
I think Ferrari strategically does well, like once a month, to make you think that the hope of Ferrari is alive and well and strong. And then they'll come out the next race and they'll be like, "Oh, we left half of the car at home. Sorry. We forgot it needed an engine. Oops." You know, like I think it's just a long game troll at this point. But they did great. Good for them.
I love it. I think this is how everybody should be at work,
Mhm.
right? You should be like, "Ah, man, fuck that guy. I'm just tired of working with him. He never shows up. He never does anything." And then on Tuesday, brilliant.
Brilliant.
Like Jack comes in, awesome. And you're like, "Man, Jack's my best coworker. He's incredible. He's going to do amazing things around the corner." And then Wednesday comes along, same old shit. I'm like, Jack's-
Exactly. Yes, this is how you keep your reputation alive. Like you just do something interesting and great once a month, and then the rest of the time you're just like, "I'm not even showing up." No.
It's the opposite of what Mercedes did this weekend, which was just completely fall apart. I couldn't think of a better word to describe Mercedes at the USGP than ass. They were
No,
just
yeah.
all around just ass.
You know what though?
George Russell
You know what?
was ass.
If you wanted
Lewis was ass. The team was ass. Go ahead, Spencer.
If you wanted the most exciting run, though, like if you wanted the most exciting individual ride of the day, come on. It was undoubtedly George Russell. I know Charles Leclerc won. I know Carlos Sainz on his way out of the team, still putting up numbers by finishing second. Ooh, we had a race between Lando and Max. Yes, that was all really exciting. But do you know what real excitement is? It's when you start in the pits and you end up finishing sixth. That's it. No one. Biggest delta of the day in terms of where you started and where you ended up. George Russell. A
Yeah.
Best lap.
wild ride that even once he got up to the front was still pretty eventful because there was a lot of jostling between that, like 5 and 10 spot that he was involved with. So a great, again, deeply relatable, most relatable driver. Where did he start? Behind, late for work, right? Like just a complete disaster, and ended up getting a 6th spot. So a potential complete disaster for Mercedes averted by the wildest run of the day.
I have two thoughts on this. One is that I find George Russell not relatable at all because every time I see a photo of him, he looks like a 55-year-old divorced dad who is like very, very wealthy because the dude is just wearing like flowy beach shirts and sandals all the time. And then he'll post a photo on Instagram and it's just like massively pointed at his bare feet. And I'm like, brother, what are you doing?
He's
like,
posting feet on
like,
Maine. That's crazy.
Yes. Like he just acts like a 55-year-old divorced man who spends half of his time in Cancun. Like that is what he looks like to me. And my second thought is when a team is ass, what I like to call it, especially if I'm like really invested in that team, I like to call it the ass Olympics. I'm like, okay, we're competing in the ass Olympics today. And it's just a really great term when you're mad about something to call it the ass Olympics because it's like, it's very cathartic.
George Russell has, to me, like, I think you're right about his energy. I'm going to go ahead and twist
weird.
it to another late life divorced guy, Hugh Jackman. Like he has very Hugh Jackman energy when it comes to his Instagram, that he'll take a picture of himself with his new watch or something and go, having a good time with my new watch. That's it. Or he'll be like, morning, my favorite time of day. And it's always a picture of him. Like the caption is always far too literal for what's happening in the photo.
I have to go check now.
And he always appears to be okay. Like the theme of every George Russell Instagram post is George Russell. He's okay.
He's okay. Yeah. I like if he weren't, he gives me like so much theater kid energy in these little videos that F1 always posts of them and Mercedes posts. And so Hugh Jackman is a great comparison, Spencer. There was another video along the same lines as the Texas accent video that Alanis really loved, where where F1 showed various American sports logos to the drivers and they all got them wrong, but the absolute highlight of this video is George Russell's line delivery. And so we could play that one and just like it's all very funny, but wait until you hear George Russell.
Alex, I've got another dumb question for you.
Another dumb question. Hit me up.
Could you try and name this team just based off the logo?
The Bulls. Super Horse. Superstar Horse.
Buffalo. Gatorade.
JC Chiefs. Easy.
I know this one. Brooklyn Greenbrook Greens.
Brooklyn Greens.
Yeah.
The Pirates, I guess.
Any location?
Location, America. I have no idea. I'm guessing it's ice hockey. Sharks?
Any place?
It can't be Austin Sharks, right?
Jacksonville Jaguars. Is that right or not?
That's not right.
Bugger.
Bugger. Why does he talk like that? Jacksonville Jaguars. Is that right? Bugger. Like, why would you do that?
That should actually be how the Jacksons are introduced. It's very in keeping with the entire franchise's history and behavior. Jaguars, no, bugger.
It was a Nashville Predators logo for those listening at home.
I wouldn't have known. I
do have to. I mean,
I'm on his Instagram and he posted this picture and it says weekend getaway. This is like divorced dad gets a girlfriend and he wants the ex-wife to see the new girlfriend and he's like, weekend getaway.
Yeah. Or I just shared a photo, which is him wearing a sweater and you go, he's wearing a sweater. It's probably going to say like fall vibes or falls here. And sure enough, the caption to that George Russell photo of him in a sweater is autumn has arrived.
Oh my God. I love that.
Why does this photo say mom's joining for some gym time? Why does it say that? Why?
In case you didn't understand what was happening. That's the thing.
Why does it say that?
I love
who
him.
The Jaguars are is like, that's a win for the NFL. I'm just going to put that out there.
I tell you.
Yeah.
A huge win for the NFL was The Good Place when the one guy, was it Jason, was obsessed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, because that's what I think about every time I'm like, Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, I don't know anything about the Jaguars, but I know that.
Yeah.
That's
the
really
the
all you need to
level
know.
the level of posting here, like consider this. He knows who the Jaguars are. And so the NFL having exiled the Jaguars to keep that toxicity away from the United States Eastern Seaboard and putting it in London for 2 weeks in a row several times has finally added up. So I know we worry a lot about F1 gaining a real stranglehold on the market here. They want a foothold over there. They got it. If George Russell is sort of close to identifying the Jacksonville Jaguars, whoo, buddy, cooking with oil now.
I was in the Paddock Club this weekend, the fancy place, and they always have the drivers come in to do these silly little interviews where they're like, "What's your favorite color? Do you want to win this weekend?" And it's like, yeah, they want to win this weekend. And so they were asking about the Texas and Georgia game, which RIP, we lost. They're asking about that, and they were like, "It's American football," and they were like, "Okay, what's that? We don't know. Are the Longhorns the home team?" Like they had no idea what was happening and they didn't know the significance of it. And I was like, I feel like I would have briefed them on this before they came in here.
Well, Alanis, as long as none of them did a horns down, then we're gonna get penalties by the stewards that people are really not gonna understand.
Yeah, they throw flags for that.
Listen, that was painful. That was a painful weekend. That hurt. Everyone was asking me what the significance of the Texas Georgia game was, and I said Texas has been bad for a long time, and Texas is finally good. But Texas is good in that we haven't played another really, 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 really good team yet. So this is the determiner of whether we're actually number one. And the determination was no.
No. Yeah. So you're trying to tell me
Texas is
that on a weekend in
McLaren.
Austin, a team that wore orange failed a crucial test against a more physical foe in red and black.
Yep. Isn't that horrible? Ouch.
Dark blue. We can
And
budget.
yeah. It's listen, I had hope. We're better than we used to be.
Let me tell you, I was on the field for that, and yeah, y'all were losing.
Wait, I saw Lance Stroll was there, Spencer. Did you see him?
I saw 2 instances of bullying this weekend. One was Max Verstappen on Lando Norris, and the other was
Georgia.
Yeah, the other was Georgia on Texas, because those pads sounded different, sister. They sounded real different.
I was at a really fancy dinner. It was like $200 a person. And the NASCAR race and the Texas game were going at the same time. So I'm over in the corner, like talking to everybody, but my phone has 2 screens going. We had NASCAR on top, Texas on the bottom, and both of them were going very badly for me. And I was like, ouch.
Well, you contain multitudes, so I feel like we can have a discussion of not only multiple teams at once on this podcast, but multiple nationalities. I saw a flag I had not seen before up on Big Red, the hill overlooking turn 1 at Coda, maybe my favorite spot in all of racing. And that flag was pale blue and white with a little seal in the middle. Argentina.
Colapinto had a great weekend.
He did, y'all. He had a fantastic weekend.
He was great. I was like, let's go, dude.
Liam Lawson too had a nice weekend. There was a lot of good midfield battles going on in this race. Colapinto finished P10. He got a point, and now Williams has a 4-point gap over Alpine in the Constructors' Championship with 5 races remaining. Williams finishing over Alpine. A, wow, good for Williams. B, Alpine, whoa. That's not good.
Yeah, that's bad. Can I make an adjacent point about Liam Lawson and Franco Colapinto and everybody? So there is this fascinating phenomenon in F1 that I haven't really noticed until the past couple of months, but it's that when you're driving, you are the most amazing, popular thing ever. And as soon as you're out of that seat, no one cares. It is the most bizarre cultural thing I've ever seen. Just like the culture of a sport. It is so odd because Mick Schumacher was in the paddock. I was watching him walk back and forth. He might as well have been an engineer. No one stopped him. No one cared. No one stopped Jenson Button. No one cared. Jenson Button, famously the 2009 F1 champion who won it in the craziest way possible. No one notices him. No one cares. He's just walking around. And like, I love Jenson Button. I'd go talk to Jenson Button. But Franco's going by, and there's a group of 10 people in the paddock club screaming his name. Liam Lawson's out there getting swarmed. What is it about Formula One that as soon as you're out of the car, you don't matter anymore? And as soon as you're in the car, you are the most important thing in the world. I don't understand.
I will tell you what it is. Fernando Alonso called Liam Lawson an idiot on Saturday.
Anointed.
On team radio.
Anointed.
He is the chosen one now.
Yeah.
I would be screaming his name too because you've made it, my friend.
Yeah. It's so fascinating to see. Like, Mick Schumacher's literally doing laps down there. Not a single person stops him. No one.
Nick Saban, who took a hot lap with Mick Schumacher on the track, got in the car and asked him, "So do you drive?" Like,
wait, really? No
Yeah,
way.
he did.
Nick Saban also driver height. He's like 5'6".
Yep.
Didn't he also ask him, when are you gonna break?
He did. He said, "When are you gonna break?" Yeah.
How did you save this anecdote for the end of the podcast, Spencer?
Yeah. I have another fun story about this. Apologies.
Go for it. We'll talk about Red Bull's cheating scandal next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll put it off.
We could listen. Is that going anywhere? That's probably not going anywhere.
There might be a new one
That's
next
not
week,
going
though,
anywhere.
in which
It'll
case
be here.
Is this important anecdote about how someone I know was absolutely bullied by Max Verstappen? Max Verstappen was on one because it wasn't just like he was bullying people during the race. He was doing it out of pocket, out of the race, because Elle Duncan took a hot lap with Max Verstappen. Elle Duncan is an ESPN host, and she took a lap and said, he goes, "Well, how was that?" And she said, "Oh, that was good. Did you take it easy on me?" And Max goes, "Yeah, I took it easy on you." And Elle Duncan said, "Well, why'd you do that? We should go again, and you should really do it this time." And Max goes, "Okay," and then proceeded to tear her face off at race pace, just absolutely floor it and drift the entire thing around the circuit of the Americas so that she was kind of wobbly when she got out. So just know, Max was ready. Max was ready the whole weekend for whatever.
Oh my goodness. I absolutely love this. I would have done the same thing. I would have been like, go again.
I
Go faster.
I would have been like, "Can you slow down?
Can you slow down?"
We haven't started yet." I'm like, "Please slow down. It's too fast."
I did a hot lap at Coda once. It wasn't a driver, obviously. It was someone else who was in the hot lap lineup. And I got in the car and I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And then we did the lap and I was like, "Oh, I do Coda faster than that. Oh no. Oh." And it's one of those things where it's like a flip of a coin, right? Like sometimes.
Do you mean on the simulator, or do you mean in
in real life? No. I do track days at Coda. Sometimes. And like, it's a very much a flip of a coin. Like sometimes you get someone who's like your level, and sometimes you get Pato Award. Like, it's just whoever you get is who you get.
Yeah. Who did Pato Award was the guest driver for? He was the guest driver for Micah Parsons. Pato Award took Micah Parsons around the track, and Micah Parsons tried so hard to be cool. He tried so hard not to flinch, but like, they started going through some of the high speed curves and he's like, "Yeah." The eyes got real big. It was great.
Pato drifts through those corners. Like, Pato's a really good hot lap. He's a very good hot lap because he's just nuts.
Yeah.
Man. I was too chicken to go on the observatory deck at Coda last year. Well, I did go up there. I was too scared to like stand anywhere near the the tower thing.
The glass cutout. There's also the glass cutout that you can see below.
Terrible, terrifying. I stayed as close to the elevator portion of it as I could. I don't think I would have survived a Pato hot lap or a Max Verstappen.
Oh, I won't flinch during a hot lap, but I'm not getting up on that shit.
Okay. I actually, one of my favorite stories is that I was up on the tower one time with a group of friends. It was like my husband, my friend JR, Tyler Reddick, everybody like that. And we're going to go down the tower, right? Like, cause we've been up there for a while. We've been watching the race. And they look at me and they go, bet you can't beat us running down the stairs if we take
Oh,
the
no.
elevator. And I was like, let's go. And I ran down that entire tower, the stairs, and I got to the bottom and they weren't there. And I was like, where are they hiding? And the people at the elevator were like, who? And I said, there was a group of like 4 or 5 dudes who should have come out of the elevator. And I know they're messing with me. And they were like, no, we haven't seen them. So 20 seconds later, who comes out of the elevator? Them. I won. I was dripping in sweat, but I was so deeply proud of that. And I also, this weekend, they had a little like these drivers do this thing where they hit lights.
You were on the
with their
light. You were on the
hands.
light. You were on the light
I was
board.
on the light game. I
reflex
was on the
board,
light
yeah.
game.
Oh, you
did you see
did
my
it?
name?
I did.
Yeah.
How'd you
So they play this, they do this thing where they
It's like
hit
the
the
reaction
lights
time thing,
as a
right?
reaction thing. Yeah. And so I go down there and the sun's shining on it because I've been watching it all weekend. I was like, I have to try this. I've never done it. Sun was shining on it. So it was really hard to see the lights. So I go out there the first try, 30 seconds. I did 29 lights. And the person running it said, come back when there's a shadow on it and you'll be able to see the lights better. But the thing about F1 is you have to scan in and scan out of every location. And I didn't have paddock access, but the suite had temporary paddock access cards that they used to like take you and show you the cars for 10 minutes and then come back up. So I go to the desk and I go, hey, don't get yourselves in trouble. You can say no, but I have a request. And they were like, what? And I was like, I need to go play the light game downstairs. Can I please have a pass to go play the light game? Because what I need to do is beat Charles Leclerc because he did 47 lights in 30 seconds and they said 10 minutes. And I said, deal. And I ran down the stairs and I ran to that light game and I was like, we're going to go until I beat him. And so I did it between 10 and 12 times. And I finally hit 49 lights in 30 seconds. And I was like, you're
Whoa.
done, Charles. And I won. And I was really happy.
Transitive win on Sunday too for you.
Uh-huh.
You won the race. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It was a huge win for me. I'll be talking about that for the rest of my life. But I just get obsessed with little things like that. And I'm like, I'm going to go beat Charles. And I did.
Hey, I thought Charles underperformed, frankly.
I overperformed. So
I mean, you beat him. Full credit awarded. But
listen,
He does have a better text.
I don't know if he was focused. He may
These-
have been thinking about something else.
listen, I don't care what he was thinking about. You don't show up with your game face on, you lose.
That's a good point. She's right about that.
Jess, I believe that takes us to what we would call the end of the episode.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll talk about the Red Bull scandal that happened before the weekend. We didn't even get to that one yet. But yeah, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, like, listen, subscribe, follow. Alanis, what do you want to plug before we go?
Ooh, you can find me everywhere on the internet at Alanis in King because Alan took my handles and did Alan is King everywhere. So put the little middle initial in there, Alanis in King. And then except for on YouTube, I am Alan is King on YouTube because Alan didn't get me there. And I upload weekly on YouTube about cars and motorsports and everything like that. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
All right, we will be joining you next week after the Formula One Gran Premio de la Ciudad de Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lights out and away we go.
2024.
I was like, what an end. Lights out and away we go.
Watch out, away we go.
I love him so much.
He tried the hardest, and I really respect that about him.
I
He tried.
him.
He was genuine.
Very hard.